Hey, good morning everyone. It's Gary here. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. If you're returning, welcome back. It's going to be a quick video today. I'm going to try to make it quick. There's a lot of content in this one today, and I'm going to try not to let it run past 30 minutes, if I can. It's pertaining to tax. One subject I was really good in school was history. I loved history. I loved history class. I never missed any history classes because I was something I really was into. So I'm gonna give you the Reader's Digest then to get up to the point of present day. So there was a thing 11,000 plus years ago, a piece of land between Siberia, Russia, and Alaska. It was called the Bering Land Strait, something like that. The Bering Land Strait. And it was, at one point, there was land, a piece of land that came between Alaska and Russia, the Bering Land Strait. No, the Bering Land Bridge. There it is. Took me a minute. It's early. The Bering Land Bridge. Due to the glaciers melting and the seas lowering and the seas rising because of the glaciers melting, it now became what is known by today as the Bering Strait. There's water there. But before the glacier started melting, that's where all the indigenous people, i.e. the Indians and other settlers from Europe came, and they were able to get across the Bering Land Bridge into North America. That's how it all became. Because I was curious, I was super curious about that in high school. How did they get here? How did the Indians get here? And that's how they got here. So fast forward, they're already here. They're settling. There's hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of Indians already here settling in the Midwest and all over North America, but predominantly in the Midwest, as far as I remember in school. So then in 1862, right in there, 1862, 1863, right there, Abraham Lincoln signed the Homestead Act, the American Homestead Act. And what that was, it allowed people that lived on the East Coast or the West Coast to travel inward to 10 states in the Midwest, and they were awarded 160 acres of land for free for a small signing fee. I think the initial fee was like $6, and then you had to get another $8 or $9 for a land agent to sign the paperwork, and it was like $18, and you had 160 acres of land that you had to maintain, upkeep, and the whole idea behind it was to build up the Midwest, whereas before it was just taken over by Indians. Of course, back in 1830. There was the Indian Removal Act by Andrew Jackson. What a bastard. I mean, I wish I was alive back then. I'd taken him out. That removed all the Indians, which was the Trail of Tears. But that was longer before. We're not going to go back there. We're not going to go back there. 1862 was the Homestead Act. So you were given 160 acres of land by President Abraham Lincoln. And hundreds and thousands of settlers moved west. It's the old saying, move west, young man, move west. Well, that's where the term came from. So they were given, the federal government gave them this land, and you had to maintain it for 5 years. After 5 years, you could either pay a small fee on it or pay for it. It was like $1.25 per acre, which came to $200 on 160 acres. That's it. $200. You owned 160 acres of land. It was yours. Now, which brings me to present day. Present day. If I go to a track, which I love horse racing, and this is while I was still working because now I'm retired, I was paying tax out of my check with my company each week. I had paid a state tax and I paid a federal tax. As you all know, you're doing it if you're working out there. If people are out there, they're working, you pay a fucking tax every week out of your check. Tax, and tax you more. And they keep going up. The tax keep going up. We're not gonna, I want to backtrack. I want to get to my story. So I go to the track. I go to Churchill Downs. I'm down there for the Kentucky Derby, or I go to Keeneland, Lexington. Beautiful place. and I make a wager on a race, and if I win that race, of that winning, I got to pay a tax if it's a certain amount. You know, if you make, I think it's like anything less than $1,000 you keep. But anything over $1,000, oh no, the federal government and the state government, they want a piece of that pie. Oh yeah, people don't realize that's what happens when you bet. Gambling is sports betting is the same way, which I don't agree with. I think they legalized it, which was a big mistake. I think they should have kept it predominantly for places like casinos in Vegas and wherever there was stuff like that. But when they legalized sports gaming nationwide, that was a big mistake. That'll be the undoing of mankind as we know. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I've only made over $1,000 in a sports in a horse race a couple times in my life, and I've been following horse racing. I've been into the horses since I was in third grade, but I started following horse racing at I think it was like 2002, 2003, right in there. Anything over $1,000, you had to pay a tax, and it was a hefty tax. My argument today is this. We're going to start out with just betting. If you're already betting money, that's taxed money. So the wager I make on the given horse race is with taxed money. It didn't just appear in my hand. Unfortunately, I wish it did, but it did not. And I'm paying the clerk at the wager area, a bet with taxed money, and I win a particular race, well, they want more tax. They don't get pay some more. I wouldn't mind so much paying tax for infrastructure like city, stuff like that, which is just like state tax, which is fine. But why's the federal government got to get their hands in the action? Why is the federal... If every single state in the United States was a sovereign state, all 50 states were sovereign, self-sustaining, all you would have is a state tax. And the federal government wouldn't get shit. If Washington people, if you lived in Maryland, which is where Washington, D.C. is in Maryland, the Maryland state tax has to be a little higher for the federal government to operate. But you wouldn't need a federal government to take care of anything if each state was sovereign. See, this is where the miss is. This is why I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm sure some scholars out there can help me understand that, but I don't understand it. Which brings me down to this. I own my own house. I don't pay a mortgage. I pay cash for it. Okay? Of course, I downsized. I had a 2-family house in one area of Cincinnati. Then I downsized, sold it, made a profit, and was able to buy my condo in which I live in now with cash. So I don't have a mortgage, which is great. All I pay is a condo fee, which sucks ass. Why do we got to pay a condo fee? Oh, so someone can cut my grass? I mean, the streets that surround us are shit. This condo was built in 2000. All the streets coming in and going out of here are all garbage. They need to be replaced. But our HOA fee keeps going up every year. Why? So someone can cut my grass. Give me a lawnmower. I had one when I lived in Oakley. I'll cut my own grass. But the condo fees. You know, I'm preaching to the choir. You can't fight City Hall, right? So where was I going with this? Oh yeah, property tax. They say, well, property tax. We gotta charge a property tax, Gary, because wait a minute, I already own my condo. Let's say anyone owns their own house, or they're paying a mortgage on their house. They're paying a mortgage on their house. They own that lot. Although they don't own it yet outright, they're paying a mortgage. They own the house because they're paying a mortgage on it. Or they don't own it yet, but if they're already paying a bank money to own that property someday, why should they pay more tax? Why should they bend them over some more? Here, give me some lube. Bend me over. Just shove it in. Why? Because they got to get their hands in the pie. You know, the state, the federal, they got to get their hands in the pie. Well, the property tax is for infrastructure. They say, oh, it's for schools, it's for infrastructure. Well, I'm way left. I mean, not left. I'm a conservative. I'm right. I'm way right. But my thinking is twisted in a way where I'm way off the left field wall. What I mean is, okay, infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure. That comes out of the state. That comes out of the state or the city bank or the treasury, right? Okay, well that should be for city tax. You shouldn't have to pay a property tax if you own a property. You own it. This is your land. Which brings me back to the Homestead Act of 1862. They paid $200 and they owned 160 acres. I sit on 3/4 of an acre and I'm getting charged out the ass. I pay $4,400 a year, which is substantially less for some and substantially more for others. Either way, it's bullshit to pay tax on property I already own. The land should be still under the 1862 Homestead Act. But oh no. Politicians and early settlers, they finagled it. They changed it. Oh, we're going to do a federal tax and a state tax. I'm all for state tax. I think that's fine. I think the state tax should sustain for the individual cities. You pay a state tax out of your paycheck. You pay a state tax for groceries, goods, and services. That'll maintain schools, hospitals, and so forth. But here's the other thing. If the hospitals are charging out the ass for a surgery, or for doctors charging out the ass, why do they make so much money? Why do we need to give the school, why do emergency services and stuff like that need to be paid out of our tax, out of our paychecks? You know what I mean? It's a can of worms, man. I think taxes are out of control. They've been out of control. And the only problem I have is that I don't trust the government. I just don't. So who else is getting their hands in that pie? But I mean the pie, the money. You know these politicians are all dirty. All of them are dirty. Kissing the babies and taking their candy at the same time. They're all dirty. And they're all wealthy. Why are the politicians wealthy? Because they got their hands in the pie. The stack of money coming in from the federal government, from property tax. You buy a car, you pay tax. You buy groceries, you pay tax. You buy clothing, you pay tax. Tax me more and tax me more. Milk that tax cow. These politicians are all dirty. They're all liars, cheat, and liars. I don't know, man. I just wonder what happened to the Homestead Act. That whole idea was such a great idea. You know, you owned a piece of property, pay $200, and you owned 160 acres of land. Lock, stock, and barrel. You owned it. It was yours. Here's your key to the property. It's yours. We'll never bug you again. And in present day, I'm sure people that are listening to this can understand it and they can appreciate it. You know, you go to buy a house and you pay cash for the house, or you pay your mortgage off and now you own the house, and you're paying and you pay some more. Property tax, state tax, federal tax, Social Security. I'm on Social Security and my pension. My pension, thank God, doesn't pay tax on that. Well, actually, they do, but, you know, and then Donald Trump, our current president, who I voted for, said, oh, well, we're going to change taxes on Social Security. We're not going to charge you. We're not going to pay tax on Social Security. That's not changed yet. We're still going to pay tax. How are you going to change that? Normally, I've noticed that he usually keeps his promises, but he hasn't changed that one yet. Why? Why and why? And people that are retired over the age of 65 shouldn't have to pay federal tax, or they shouldn't have to pay property tax or federal tax. Because they're already getting taxed on their Social Security. When I was still working, there was mostly old people, a lot of elderly people, and I have a big heart for the elderly people. I really do, because first of all, they can't walk really, really well because their bones are all creaking and shit. You get old, you trust me, things start breaking down. I mean, both my shoulders are shot. Not to the point where I can't use them, but everything hurts, you know, or not everything, but things start hurting when you get older. It's part of the way it is, you know. So these senior citizens will come in, they'd be on a budget because they're living on Social Security in a home they already own. Because I would talk to them. You know, they raise, I would hear stories of, yeah, I raised 3 great kids, I have grandkids, I have great-grandchildren and blah, blah. And it's, I've been living here forever, and God bless my, my daughters and my sons for taking, and they come and visit me. And sometimes they try to help me out because, I'm by myself and my husband died. And I hear the sad stories. And they're paying property tax at age 75 or higher. They're paying property tax. And John Q., governor of Ohio, or whatever governor of any given state, they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They don't care about the little grandmother that's trying to make ends meet with her little Social Security check on a budget, not eating the way she used to eat when her husband was alive because he had more money. He was the breadwinner. Struggling Americans. Struggling. Tax, and tax me some more. It's bullshit. You can't fight City Hall, you can't win, but I'm just spewing today. Got to budget my money. I do pretty good. I'm self-sustained. I'm not rich, but I'm certainly not poor. Far from it. I've done well. I saved my money. I have my own resources. But what about the people that don't? What about the people that live paycheck to paycheck? And when I was still working, there was people I worked with that lived paycheck to paycheck. How do you raise a family on that? And on top of that, pay out the ass in taxes. They don't care. They got their foot on your head. The government's got their big foot on your neck, squeezing every life and breath out of you. You're going to pay me. You're going to pay me. If you don't pay me, we're going to throw you in jail. Oh, yeah. Tax evasion. We're going to throw you in jail if you don't pay taxes. I don't get it. And every year, every 4 years or whatever, they have another election. Whoa, they always have people saying, oh, I'm going to reform taxes. Yeah, I'm going to work for you. I'm working for you. I'm going to reform taxes. Oh, yeah, you vote for me, I promise. Then you get voted in, and where are they? Where are they? Oh, where's all those? What happened to those promises? They got thrown by the wayside. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. Certainly don't care about me. I'm jaded. I know I'm jaded. But I speak for the common person, the common man and woman. I don't know if this is going to go very far, but, I'm going to get on my soapbox every time when I get a hair or get a wild hair, man. I start talking about paying more taxes. Tax, and tax some more. And there's people listening to this are saying, well, Gary, who's going to maintain the roads and all that shit? Well, that comes out of state tax. Get rid of the federal tax. Get rid of the property tax. Why? That's why I pay an HOA fee. They maintain my property. Who pays them? The landscaping company or the people that do the work? They have their money. They're charging people out the ass around the other parts of the city for landscaping work. And then our HOA, our board here, they charge us an HOA fee. How much you want to bet? A lot of our HOA fee goes into their pockets. I see some of the board members on my street. I see what they drive. I see what kind of cars they drive. You can't tell me they aren't bilking that fund. You can't tell me they aren't putting money in their pocket that comes from those HOA fees. It's a vicious cycle, man. It's a vicious cycle every year. Well, I need that brand new Camaro or I need that brand new G5 jet airplane. So let's raise the property tax every year a little bit and let's raise the HOA fee a little bit more for that guy that owns that condominium. Fuck him. He doesn't need it. What does he care? I see what they drive. I see how they live. Assholes. All of them. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm going to get off this soapbox. Get on my day. Glad Christmas is over, man. Just one more holiday. My favorite one of the year is Christmas Eve. Not New Year's Eve. And I do this every year. I have a tradition. I used to get up on a chair and jump into the new year. I would wait for 12 o'clock in 1 second, and I would jump off a chair and jump into the new year. I've been doing it for years. Now I don't jump off a chair because my left knee hurts. So I get out my shoebox. I got a shoebox made of wood, and it's only about 8 inches off the ground. I jump into the new year. I do it every year. I've been doing it for years and years and years, jump in the new year. Does that help you, Gary? Yeah, it helps me. It really helps me. Helps me come up with new content for things like this. Anyway, that's all I got. Well, I'll catch up to you guys probably before the new year. one more episode, and then in 2026, when we jump into the new year, we can do more content. Thanks for stopping by and looking at my material. I appreciate it. Take care of yourselves and each other. You're going to go into the new year. Please don't drink and drive. Call an Uber, get a cab. Give me a call. I don't drink. I'll drive you around. It's not worth it. Or just sleep in your car. Anyway, have a great night, great day. Enjoy the rest of your holiday. Peace out.